Oh, golf revenue? That's 2. There you go, okay.
916,040 total golf revenue.
Say that again? Yes, 900, yes.
Yes.
I'm looking at this 2011, it says 1,006,690.
But
Can you explain
this is golf fee revenue.
Yeah.
So it
What
doesn't,
is-
that's your total golf revenue. So that includes the pro
Includes
shop
clothing,
sales,
shoes, gloves.
the handicap system. It includes more, this is just golf fee revenue.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so back on the reserve fund. So the estimate is we'll end this year or begin next year, whichever one you want to call it, at $1,240,000. Okay? And of that $175 that you pay every month, $30 is for that goes to the reserve. So that $30 is equivalent to a little more than $500,000. Estimated interest of $15,000, and then and the board has the details of this, but for the summary for this presentation purpose, we're expecting to spend $978,000, and essentially most of that money is to fix this end of the clubhouse, with the roof, the siding, and all of that, plus some additional tennis court repairs, some golf tee renovations, but all of that we estimate to be about $978,000, which will bring the reserve cash balance down to $783,000 for next year. So that's the reserve side. That's reserve cash. And this is the operating cash. Okay, we have essentially 2 funds. We have a reserve fund and we have an operating fund. And the operating fund balance at the beginning of this year was $477,000. Okay? This number here, the $300,000, we talked earlier about comparing all those numbers to the forecast of a $200,000 surplus. Well, through October, you got to remember that forecast was done back in July and August. This number is sort of a back of the napkin type of updating from July and August to now. Through October, our actual operating income was $260,000. Okay? And if you go back to what we did in November, December last year, we did another roughly $70,000 in income for those 2 months. So, we're not expecting anything different for November, December this year. Matter of fact, it could even be better than it was last year. So this number of $300,000, as I mentioned, is sort of back of the napkin as to where we'll actually come out in income. And to tell you the truth, it'll probably come out to $320,000, $330,000, somewhere along those lines. But this is being conservative. But taken away from that is the money that we spent. Now, again, you have to understand, we have a reserve fund and we have a capital fund. The reserve fund will pay for whatever the assets we have that need to be repaired. It will not pay for anything new. So this $325,000, in essence, paid for the new bar, and the new expanded bar, and it paid for the fitness center, the expansion of the fitness center, and it paid for the expansion of the restaurant. Because anything new, and an expansion is new, is paid for out of the operating fund. So you can see, and again, if this number is more like 320, 330, what you can see here is that essentially the 1 year's operating income paid for all of that. That's the reason why management is not proposing an assessment increase this year. The $300,000 that we made this year, in essence, paid for the new bar and the new fitness center. So now we go and we look into next year. Okay, so if you do the math there, it means we expect to end this year at about $452,000 of cash. If you recall the contingency number, I may not have updated this screen here. Probably should have been $66,000. Okay, I think was the number we had in the previous screen.
Yes.
Yeah, I changed those numbers. I didn't realize I had to change this. But anyway, so that number, the $66,000. Remember, I told you is that if all right, maybe reclaimed water might come in higher than what we thought, but bad debts could come in lower. Anyway, if all that stuff works out according to plan, then we should have $66,000 of surplus. And if we do, that 66 would get added to the 452, and then we have another $100,000, or expecting another $100,000 coming out of capital for the bathrooms. And again, remember, that's new, for the new bathrooms that we put in here, and we're going to move the wood shop from here to the cart barn. So that's all new money that we need, and that's expected to cost roughly $100,000, and that will come out of this operating fund. So again, if you correct the 56, to put the 66 grand in there, we're talking roughly about $418,000 in operating cash. And I think it's important to understand that we're trying to keep that $400,000 or $500,000 in operating cash, but it's important to recognize that both the operating fund and the reserve fund have a contingency cash number. In the operating fund case, it's the $400,000. In the reserve fund, it's another 480 some odd thousand. And both funds really are reserving for the same thing. That is, if we had a hurricane that shut down the restaurant and shut down the golf course, that money is meant to hold us over until we can get our, we do have business interruption insurance, but that money would be meant to hold us over until we got reimbursed on the insurance. And so for that reason, Larry Lampe, who's in charge of the Federal Reserve, who's in charge of the reserve fund, will not touch his $489,000. That will stay locked in as a guarantee reserve. For that reason, if he locks that number in, the number that we were showing, can you put it back in? Oops. That number that we're showing here, and this is what we were discussing at the budget meeting, this number here can be flexible. It could go down, or it could go higher. It'd be nicer if it went higher, but if it didn't have, I guess what I'm saying, this number doesn't have to be locked in stone. This number could go down to 300 grand, so long as there's some plan to get that money at some point in time back to the $400,000, $500,000 range. But at any point in time, it could dip below 400 grand because we have the reserve money of the 400 and some odd thousand in reserve that's guaranteed as reserve in the event of an emergency. So that's the presentation.
Okay, any board questions or comments? Yeah, Bob.
Oh, I was gonna go sit down first.
Rick, you're gonna ask something from over here?
Yeah. You just want to take his picture.
Comment I have, I think food and beverage, I think the estimates in here are kind of low, especially with the Bar. And I think the estimates for the income of golf may be a little too high. I recognize we can adjust those next year with the experience, but my concern is I think we're really understating how much food and beverage is going to have as an income, and I think we're overstating how much the golf fees are going to generate.
Yeah, I respond. We talked in the budget workshop to the board. The reason we're being conservative in food and beverage, we had less than half of the outside events that we had last year. The outside events are the profitable events. Member spending is usually at a loss. Even the beverage, the alcoholic beverage spending is at a very marginal profit based on we haven't had a price increase in 3 years. So the management's trying to be conservative. We are, as Kevin mentioned, and Kevin and I talked about this at length, as did the management team, we are being aggressive with golf based on the amenity analysis. If we lower prices, we can't believe that they won't, daily fee especially won't come back and play here, and that more people won't take trackage. It's a 67 round break even with trackage. If you play 67 rounds, whether you play daily fee or pay as you go, it makes sense to do trackage if you own a card. So that's the assumptions, Bob. We're being a little bit more aggressive based on what the amenity analysis recommended. We followed that recommendation and decreased pricing. We think that's going to lead to more. And it isn't so much the bar, although we're keeping it flat because of no price increase at this point. We are about half of what we had last year in outside events, and that is the trend that the community seems to be going to. They don't want to see this clubhouse closed down as much. So we're trying to take a hard look at that, and we don't want to get out there and be really aggressive with the bar, especially knowing that there's a potential to have half the income that we have from outside events, which impacts profit in the food and beverage side. So Bob, that's why we forecasted in that manner.
I just feel it's a little inconsistent. We're conservative in one area and aggressive in the other.
Well, I think we're aggressive because we didn't have, if we would have lowered all the prices in food and beverage, I think we would have been more aggressive. But based on lowering those prices significantly when it comes to, like, for instance, the single trackage, taking it down from 635 to 400, which was the right thing to do completely, lowering the 9-hole from 9, whatever it was, down to 750. So we think based on those, there are two different departments, and we did two different things. We had a significantly lowered price structure in golf, and we stayed flat in food and beverage. That's why we did it that way.
Yeah, I think, we know we have a problem with golf revenue. We know there's fewer and fewer golfers, and golf is probably moving more towards a 9-hole than the 18-hole. But this was, I wouldn't call it an experiment, but this was designed to say, well, okay, maybe if we lower prices, maybe that trend will be reversed. Whether it happens or not, to me, it's worth an attempt. And we have money in the contingency in case if it doesn't work out. Food and beverage, I would love to see us be wrong on the budget on that, and to
Right.
see revenue come in much higher than what it is. That would be great. That would be a great problem to have. But should we budget for that? Probably not. If it happens, great.
And you gotta remember, this bar is brand new, and it's football season. What happens after football season? Are they gonna be 3 deep in the bar on Sundays? Are they gonna be 3 deep in the bar on Thursday nights when there's football? Are they gonna be 3 deep in the bar on Fridays when there's football? Football is the one entertainment that drives that bar heavily. So we get 1 month into the new budget, and football season's over until next November. So we felt it was just too risky in food and beverage to try to take that bar and ride it, for lack of a better word, into food and beverage profit.
Other comments?
I just want to make a comment about the contingency fund and adding the 10,000 from marketing, which we did temporarily. I would still like to see a review before we get so aggressive with marketing as far as a major real estate agent to come to our assistance.
Janice, we looked at that. Given this market economy right now, I've talked to all the realtors that are in here. No one's willing to put money into this community that is sold out. All they have is resales. And with the current economic environment and mainly short sales selling, we talked to 2 major realtors and they said, no way. We're not going to do it. So the marketing committee will put together a marketing plan. And we talked about it again yesterday in our marketing meeting. We're having an open house this weekend to sort of put our toe in the water to see how that's going to work. But we're going to do a marketing plan, and some of that plan is going to include things like where to retire, and possibly doing some advertising in that. It won't just be doing open houses with the realtors and things like that. We're going to have a more broad-based approach. But we will bring that to the board as a plan, and once the board approves the plan, we'll have it funded. That's why we moved the money back into contingency, because we did not have a plan, and I was not going to ask the board to approve something without a plan.
Additional comments or questions from the board? Linda?
I have trouble with the fact that the employees are not getting a raise.
We can't really talk about that. Employee issues, you can't. 720, no, you
It's
can't.
in the budget.
That's one area you cannot discuss.
Oh.
Because we're going to have to just talk about specific departments and things like that, and we cannot do that.
No, you don't.
But
This is
but-
No, you don't, just general.
It's general.
Okay, general, yes, it's flat. We're keeping it flat. The employees here, and I talked to Linda about this on Monday, and the whole board, the employees here are in a, when I came here 3 years ago, we did an analysis, a wage analysis. We're doing another one, we're in the process of doing another one. We've done it partially for the hourlies, just to make sure. Our employees are compensated at a higher level than industry average across the board here. Many of them have been here many years, and you reach a threshold at some point as far as what they do and what you can reward. We are looking at a different program for next year, which we haven't rolled out yet, but the management's looking for a different program to possibly do bonuses for key employees. When they go above and beyond, reward them with a bonus system instead of constantly raising the hourly wage up and up and up and up. We get people that are 10 or 15 years here making twice as much as the industry average. So, and the other thing is, management also felt very strongly when we brought this to the board that to give the employees a raise and raise the assessment $5 for the whole community, that wasn't going in the direction that we felt as a management team. And the management team is bought in on this, just so you know. This isn't my decision. This is the manager's decision that run this place. And we've talked to a lot of the hourly employees too. So we just felt that it wasn't worth bringing an assessment increase to the board and to the community to go through a series of management increases when everybody, to a man here, except for people that have just started, which we just hired 3 people in food and beverage operation, everybody else is either at or above industry average within the Pasco, Hernando, Hillsborough, Pinellas County area.
So you're saying that your man